Can we just press the FIFA forfeit button every time we play Coventry? It's getting ridiculous now, the amount of times we keep failing to beat them. Completely outfought today, to tell you the truth. One of the things that I definitely think across this season that can't be criticised of the lads is the effort levels and the endeavour. I'm not going to go as far as I said they didn't try. I think I think that it's one that over the course of the season it isn't accurate. As far as today's game goes, I think that Coventry definitely wanted it a lot more than we did though. And for me there's a level of you can try, but the other team's really trying. And I feel like Coventry were the only team today that were pressing the ball and were wanting to win the game. They were, getting themselves about the pitch as much. And I feel like whenever there was 50-50s, I felt 9 times out of 10 Coventry players were winning most of them. And that's well below the standards that what we have shown throughout large parts of this season. And yes, look, we know that top two's been done now, but for ages. But the one thing I do not want us to be coasting into the playoffs. And that's why I kind of don't want to play Coventry, because we never ever beat them. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't impressed at all today, and I think the first half in particular was just abhorrently shocking. It was just absolutely terrible. We showed no fight, we showed no defensive organisation, and something I've really got to get in the system here is the fact that for both of the first 2 goals, Coventry didn't have to work for either of them. Basically, look, the first one from what I can remember was Dan Neil, who I'm a big fan of and still am, by the way. Dan Neil has literally just decided to try and be clever in the midfield, give the ball away, one long ball over the top, Haji Wright gets on, who's a very good striker by the way, gets onto it, and then it's just a really good finish from outside the box from Haji Wright. But it's a needless goal, it's a needless chance to give Coventry in the first place. The second one, I need to look at it back because there was a few people suggesting it wasn't a penalty, but for me it was if it wasn't a penalty then it was a free kick. But again, it came from, I think Mundo was, to be fair to him, at least was trying to do a bit to get us back into the game. But we then lost the ball, another long ball forward, and then it ends up being a penalty. And half-time, there were boos from the away end, and I think based on that particular first half alone, I think it was fully deserved. I think a lot of the players there, I think, let themselves down massively in the first half. And then, of course, the second half, there was a bit more fight into it, but the game's done by then. There's literally no point to it. The game's absolutely gone by then. We had a couple of half chances with Mayenda and Isidore when we put a long ball forward down the right-hand side, and both of them missed chances, but they weren't exactly like great ones, really. They were pretty difficult ones to try and score, I think, from what I can remember. But bear in mind, I've only seen it once from the away end. Look, I'm just going to leave it there, and there's not much more I can be bothered to say. Coventry, I'd be very surprised they had an easier 3 points than that all season. And I think Sunderland owes a massive reaction in the next game. One last thing I want to quickly get out of my way, because I can understand the arguments to some degree with the likes of Chris Rigg when people say this, but I don't personally, and people can disagree, that's totally fine, but I don't personally buy that the team's tired thing, or the team's like absolutely knackered, or it's absolutely run on empty, because the likes of Cirkin, the likes of Hume, the likes of Dan Neil, etc. have all made enough appearances in football now to avoid this being the case whenever they get to 3/4 of the way through the season. I get it with Chris Rigg, and I get it with Job last season. They were their first seasons in senior football, constantly getting exposed to senior football and playing every week. But for me, I don't buy the idea that they were tired. They've got to have accountability for their own performances. But there you go. Look guys, I'm going to love you and leave you there because the coach is about to leave any minute. Like I said, I think like doing a video right after a 3-0 loss isn't exactly ideal, is it? But journey on the way back to Sunderland, so yeah, that's going to be fun. But anyway guys, I'll love you and leave you there. If you watch it, if you're a regular sub, and I know there'll be Coventry fans watching this, if you think I've earned it from you, hit the sub button trying to get the 6k and all that jazz. And yeah, 2 weeks to stew on this. Absolutely brilliant. Let's just see what happens for the rest of the season. Big reaction and better performances needed there. Are we the lads?